welcome to the CNBC Africa special. We're sitting down with First Lady of South Africa, Madame Bongi Ngema-Zuma. And of course, this is part of our coverage of Women's Month here in South Africa. I'm Nozipho Mbanjwa. Thank you for joining us. Madam, thank you so much for making the time to chat with me this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
So let's start off with let's get the lay of the land as you see it. How would you describe the role of women in South African society and our progress towards empowerment?
I think women have always been the pillar of our country or of all humankind. So like we have the common slogan here in South Africa, you strike the woman, you strike the rock, because everything centers around women. And when you empower a woman, you are sure to have empowered the whole nation or the family, depends on the woman. Where there's a powerful mother, then the family works. Where there's no mother, or the mother is, not very powerful, then everything crumbles.
And we've seen that understanding that women are the pillars of society through policies, where South Africa has very progressive policies when it comes to women representation in parliament, in corporates. But beyond policy, at an operational level, how would you say we're doing?
I think we're moving, but not at a very fast pace. In terms of policy, like you say, and government, if you look at how our parliament is structured, how many women representatives as members of parliament, yes, we are fine. And when you look at the ministers and stuff, we are fine. But when it comes to corporates, it's not yet there. I think we still have a long road to go.
What do you think is that stubborn challenge that's making the corporate space so difficult to crack?
It's stereotypes. There's still that thinking that men should think and women should do. So women are there, but not fully represented at higher or senior positions. So we need to tend that, but we need to talk more as women and prove that we can. Because what happens is that when you are a woman, you have to do 130% to be, acceptable in a certain position. But that has to change.
And who should be driving that? I'm trying to get to this to a better understanding of whether women have stepped up to that challenge and are aggressively driving their own representation, or are we still waiting for policies, for government, and for men to pave the way for us once again?
The policy and governance, also from government, to be strict on companies that you must have this, amount of maybe senior managers as women, will push it to a certain extent. But we as women as well have to take up, uplift ourselves, step into those opportunities that are available, but also empower one another.
Let's talk about that, because there's always this idea and this debate that women are not very good at ensuring that they open the door for other women to come in once they're in the boardroom or once they're in a particular political fold. How do we practically ensure that we uplift one another, that we open the door, that we invite each other in?
The one way is mentorship. We should encourage people or the culture of mentoring younger women to step up and be better, maybe employees or business women than they are. Invite them, be with them when you do things. But we have to create platforms where we interact with younger women. Not only younger women, women also that are less advantaged, like the women from rural areas. How do we then, as we move up the ladder, pick some of them and empower them with the skills they have? Because we have a vast amount of skills, but we need people to turn those skills into businesses. That's a role that we can, as women, can do.
And in some instances, we will concede that there has been progress and we have seen women around the boardroom, but we're still getting paid less. So where are the barriers when it comes to equal pay? Why aren't we able to command for the input that we're bringing into the boardroom?
I think it goes, like I'm saying, it's a whole pack. So we need a holistic approach in addressing the issues facing women, because yes, I do agree with you that we are still somehow marginalized as opposed to men. But also we have to say more, to speak more, speak out. like the women of the 1956 that walked, and maybe we need to have more powerful voice in terms of addressing what is now the pertinent issues that are not making this thing work. Yes, we know that there are opportunities. Yes, we know that now you can be a chairman of the board. But how do you make those men that report to you believe that a woman can do it without you doing extra than any other man would have done?
There's a very interesting example, and I can't remember which country from the top of my head, where a first lady put her foot down and decided that she would get equal pay as the president to drive that particular message home. Is that something that we could expect from you, to make sure that you symbolically drive that message?
No, not really. Remember, in South Africa, we do not have the first lady position.
Yes.
There is the spouse of the president. So obviously, I don't get paid by government. But I can do as much while we have that power of influence by association to say, mobilize, and then let's talk about issues that affect women.
So that was a very diplomatic response. I know we need to keep the family happy. So let's go back even into the family structure, because we've been focusing in South Africa in particular around the girl child for quite some time now, and there's been a lot of emphasis on protecting, promoting, nurturing and supporting the girl child. Are we at risk of creating a society where boy children are being left behind?
I think it has its pros and cons, because I hear complaints from boys. I mean, I happen to be in a family that has a lot of boys, to say, okay, it's always take a girl child to work. What about boys? They will see work the first time they step in, maybe to have their interviews. I think we have to be careful while we mentor and nurture a girl child, but are we not then growing boys that will have that anger about all the attention being given to girls? So we have to create a balance at some stage.
As an extension of that, there's also this idea that to create boy children who grow up to be responsible men, it starts in the home, and it starts from the way we begin to socialize them. What are your views on that debate?
It's true. I mean, as much as we need to nurture and take care of our girl child, but a boy also needs the same amount of attention, because they are also growing. They have to see examples. But if they are left at home and they're not taken by men to work who are CEOs and whatever, when will they start learning? But also the fact that we try to further separate and create segregation between genders, that is not something that should be promoted. But I do think it's important to take care of our girls, but also to educate our boys while we take care of our girls, so that there is no violence going forward. Because you don't know where all these things start to mushroom. So we have to be cognizant of what the boys need as well, in terms of mentoring, in terms of being educated and trained, and how to live with girls. But if we separate them, it's a problem. Look at historically girls that go to a girls' school and boys' school, but then when they get to varsity, where then they are mixed, there's always some of them do it very well, some it's a confusion because these are strangers to them. So let's not try and promote that even further than them going to separate schools.
If you could change legislation, would you change legislation around that to say no single-sex schools?
I wouldn't. There is a reason for all of that. Let's say many of us women are single parents. So when you're a single parent, you're a woman, you're raising a boy child, you have a helper who is a woman, maybe you stay with a sister, So where do they then learn what other boys do? So that's where the role of the boys' school would help.
Then comes in.
Same with the girls.
As you saw, I was smiling because I'm a product of an all-girls school, so I find it is a very interesting debate. I want to touch on two more issues before we begin to wrap. The first one being power and the second one being culture. Power amongst women. There's also a view that we are very jaded in our understanding of empowering each other. A typical white woman might not necessarily have the same challenges of the typical black woman in South Africa. Across the racial lines, can we confidently say that we are on the same page, or are there still some racial issues that even as women we probably still need to work around?
History is still having its impact on us, because you find that to be honest, when you get to the corporate world, you may be in the same position with maybe, it depends where those people come from, your counterpart comes from, how they have been educated, and if they accept the change. Because if you talk about a person of my age, the majority of their lives, they grew up knowing that blacks are inferior.
Right.
So that carries on into the office space.
Even amongst other women,
yeah. Where you're occupying the same positions, but because they've been encultured in that way, that a black person is normally their helper at home, yes. Then you time and again you see it coming up.
So but an area that we still need to work on.
We still have to work on. We still have to create a lot more platforms where we integrate, where we are together with our, mixed races and do common things, because there is still that.
There's still work to be done. And I guess the second issue, the best way to ask the question is, can empowerment and culture in a South African context coexist?
It can. Certainly it can.
Why do we almost feel the need that they can't?
No, it can, because empowerment also comes with understanding the next person's culture and accepting that we are different, and what is important to you may not be important to me, but respect what is important to me.
Yes.
Because look at things like our cultural days and how we dress up and all of that. If I come to work wearing my cultural stuff, not necessarily exposing anything, but it's looked at as if I'm being barbaric or something like that.
Yes.
That has to change. We have to respect one another's culture and also empower each other by sharing the knowledge so that we respect, each other.
So there was one question that I know that female viewers would like to find out. We always talk about this idea of balancing and whether it's possible. As a first lady, does that even exist in your life? How is your understanding of the balancing act in your life as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, and as, of course, somebody who's also held in very high regard in the public space?
I think it's possible. Women are naturally made to be able to multitask. So it's a matter of putting your time, managing your time correctly. Because like you say, you are a mother, you are a corporate woman or a businesswoman. So at home, there is a role that you play, but know your space. So you can be a chairman or whatever in the boardroom. You still have to, at home, the man is the head of the family. The woman is the heart.
That's beautiful. So I think it's a beautiful way to end our conversation. And perhaps what I would like you to do as we close, to the young women in South Africa who are trying to navigate the space, trying to find and secure leadership positions for themselves, trying to balance the cultural as well as the empowerment platforms that they also want to be seen on. What would you say to them about the kind of South Africa that you would like to see and how they would then ensure that they're part of that country?
I'd like to see youth playing a role, especially in the, I would say, NGO space, even if they don't start their own NGOs, but be there to bring back. Because I think that plowing back to our communities is now phasing out with maybe the generations older. But I would like to see young women also very much involved in starting or working with women that are in rural areas, empowering and uplifting others, but also learning from their leaders. Because to start something, you need someone who knows it, and then partner with that person, but also uplift somebody else. So I would like them to see them playing a significant role in sharing their knowledge, sharing, what do they do to schools? What do they do, Because we chose careers because there were career guidance, people that would come to schools and tell you this is, but now we have women that have tapped into spaces like the engineering, the mining and whatever. What are they doing then to share that knowledge so that it motivates the ones that are still going to choose careers? So it's important that we all work together and interact with our young women.
Well, it's been a very clear clarion call for young women and those who have been established in spaces of corporates and other positions to begin to plow back into their communities and to show that as they rise, that they bring other women with them. Thank you so much for making the time to join us as we sat down with First Lady of South Africa, Madam Bongi Ngema-Zuma. For myself, Nozi Pumbanjwa, it's goodbye.